Side.
You ready?
And also, Sam, can you record on your machine as well?
Say what now?
Sam, exit Sam to record as well.
Are you able to record, Sam? Okay. All right. Give us the cue, bro, so we can get going.
You can go now.
All right. We live now on Facebook, right? We live everywhere, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Freedom Friday. We've been doing this Freedom Fridays for a long time. We started it out before we started doing it on Zoom and recording it. So we want to welcome everybody. Baba Mosi is on travel right now, so Baba Singo is going to be the host tonight. We have a treat. We don't have no special guests. We got real members that are going to be the presenters tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about Black August, African Heritage Month, and the history of that, both that and that, as well as Mosiah Month that was kicked off in the UK. So without any further ado, I'm going to formally open up with the anthem, with the preamble. The Universal Negro Improvement Association African Unity League is a social, friendly, humanitarian. Please, y'all mute. Everybody mute, please. Congo, can you mute? Congo, please mute. I'm gonna start over. Congo, please mute your system. Thanks. Um, the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, and institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the African and Negro peoples of the world, and the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all women and mankind, believing always in the sisterhood and brotherhood of woman and man and the fatherhood and motherhood of God. The motto of the organization, the government, is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all women and mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of woman and man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all the rent and peace and plenty will be hurled into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed. One God, one aim, one destiny, one Africa. Princes shall come out of Egypt, Ethiopia, Kemet. Ethiopia shall soon stretch forth her hands unto the Lord, builds the house, their labor is but loss that build it, except the Lord keep the city, the watchmen wake up but in vain. Pledge to the flag. I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and to the liberation of her scattered Black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism and promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all Black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny, one Africa. So, brothers and sisters, I'm Brother Senghor Jawara Baye, and I'm an active member of Division 330, and I also serve as the First Assistant President General of the government. So I'm really pleased to be here tonight and to talk about this. I know we're still in July, but we're coming up on the big month, August, and there's some very significant things that have taken place historically during this month. But we're focusing on Black August, which I believe was started in 1979, and then also African Heritage Month, which the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division manifested in 1980 to strive to bring Africans in the DMV closer together. Also, in 1989 or so, the Alkebulan Revivalist Movement instituted what is called Mosiah Month. All of those are August, and all of those are related. And we're going to break it up for you and make sure that people are very clear how important this month is. But let me start with African Heritage Month, since that was something that was birthed right through this Division 330, which hosts the Freedom Fridays. Now, when we say August is African Heritage Month, it was reinstituted as African Heritage Month in 1980. The reason we say reinstituted is because it has so much history, as I share with you, and you'll understand. The commemoration strives to help reaffirm our collective educational, cultural, political, economic, and spiritual commitment to our youth and ourselves. We all must commit ourselves to work collectively and be more responsible in uplifting ourselves to our traditional greatness. Our ancestors and elders have left us a great legacy for us to build upon, as well as a black print to follow in order for us to assure a positive future for our youth who need and deserve our love, support, and direction. August is one month which is filled with important historical and our story dates. The 19th, I'm reading from something, so I'm not going to say that this was during the 19th annual African Heritage Month, but at any rate, I'm going to kind of read that. So I just want you to understand that we're way past the 19th. But the 19th annual African Heritage Month commemoration is predicated on the month-long convention of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League Rehabilitating Committee 2020, the International Emancipation Day held August the 1st. And that's all throughout the Caribbean, and we're going to get deep into that. And then in 1834, the establishment, I'm sorry, I'll take that back. Emancipation Day held August the 1st, 1834. The establishment of the Declaration of Rights of African Peoples of the World in 1920, and the National Black Conventions held in August in the 1800s. Also, Africans arrived as captives at Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, Nat Turner's insurrection in 1831, the marches on Washington, D.C. held in 1963, and I just happened to be a young warrior that was there, thanks to my stepfather, and 1983, the 20-year anniversary, the Watts Urban Rebellion in 1965, Liberia's Flag Independence Day, which me and Brother Sam are going to be celebrating tomorrow at the Liberian Embassy, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too. The Amistad slave ships were seized by African captives in 1839. Liberia's Flag Independence Day was started in August 1847. Mansa Musa's Hajj to Mecca in 1326. African Ocean Day was organized originally by the Moorish Science Temple of America. Noted birth dates during the month include Edward Wilmot Blyden, and I believe that's August the 7th, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, August the 17th, Charles Yardbird Parker, Count Basie, Matthew Henson, James Fortune, Ernest Just, Diana Washington, E. Franklin Frazier, Althea Gibson, and Benjamin E. Mays, to name a few Earth days that were all in August. Now, also, the Provincial Government of the Republic of Africa shootout took place in August. Grove Carnival in London took place in August. The big Jamaica celebration, what do they call it? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The Jamaica thing, you know, that they have, took place in Jamaica in August. So that's just to give you a little bit, but let's back up a little bit. Black August in 1979, thanks to our brother, thanks to Zama Cook, who made sure y'all understand George Jackson. George Jackson. And if you don't know who George Jackson is, if you're listening to this, you need to Google him and find out how great a warrior he was before he was murdered, assassinated. But Black August was established for us as African people who are politically, mentally imprisoned, to support our political prisoners that are still some that are in lockdown, and many who did 30 years ago. Whoever that is, please mute them. Please mute that, whoever came in on their phone. Thank you. So it's very, very important for us to recognize Black August and African Heritage Month are not competitive with each other. They're supportive of each other. And August, African Heritage Month, when we established it, we understood that August was also Black August. So we are joined in marriage with that. Then after 1987, after the Alkebalan revivalist movement, which is tied to the UNIA in the UK, established themselves, several years after that, they established what they call Mosiah Month. And during Mosiah Month, they do programs all throughout the month, recognizing not only Marcus Garvey, but the legacy of the UNIA-ACL. Now, also, we talked about August the 1st being Emancipation Day for many of the Caribbean islands. That's very important because celebrations will be going on all over the place honoring emancipation. I just happened to be able, as third assistant president general, to be in Trinidad, Tobago when they did that celebration. And man, it seemed like we was in Africa. It was so much African garb and energy and all. And so they again are doing their big Emancipation Day in Trinidad. The big bad Barry Burroughs Youth Symposium, which we're going to let our brother Sam kind of, and all of us talk about it, but Sam is going to try to take the lead, and we're going to explain what that is about. That's taking place here in Banneker City at Bus Boys and Poets at 625 Monroe Street Northeast, Bus Boys and Poets at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to explain what's going on with that. And we can also let y'all know if there's any young brothers and sisters out there who still want to get registered, we still got some slots. And then also coming up on the 9th is a day, and sometimes they do celebrations on the 8th, but basically it was the 9th, African Women's Day. And hopefully Mama Dr. Chinzara will join us and she can give us some more details on that because there's still celebrations going on. In fact, they're having a big one in LA and a lot of other places and on the continent too. That's very important. Also, August the 13th, which I did mention the Declaration of Rights of African Peoples of the World, but on August the 13th, the red, black, and the green was a declaration that was established. So all y'all RBGers out there need to overstand. Now, I'm going to come back later and talk more about what's going on in Africa, in the UK, in Ghana specifically in Africa, in Sierra Leone specifically, in Colombia, in Chicago, Illinois, in Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C. on August the 17th this year. But right now, I'm going to put a pin in it, and I'm going to ask my brother Sam to speak to the first, which next Thursday, and then I'm my sister, Mama Tendai, to chime in because Mama Tendai had been with Adasi, and when I spoke about African Heritage Month, Adasi was always a part of that energy, and Adasi, African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute, is always on point with reminding us of how important it is for us to check with our ancestors. But there's so many other things that Mama Tendai could share, and I'm gonna make sure that we have a lot of time so we talk about that because I know African women are fired up right now, and we want to keep that fire burning. We also going to talk a little bit about some of the other events the UNIA is doing. We have a convention coming up in Chicago, Illinois from the 13th of August to the 18th. And we're getting out of there before the Democrat convention. But we're going to be dropping some science in Chi-Town, Chicago. So without any further ado, I'm going to segue to my brother Sam and then Mama Tendai. And I'll come back and tell y'all about some of the wonderful things. But let me just say this also on August the 1st. They have a powerful reparations repatriation event taking place in the UK and also in Ghana. But anyway, Sam.
Give thanks, Baba, and many thanks for the platform. August 1st, 2024, which is this upcoming Thursday, we have the Marion Barry, Nanny Helen Burroughs Youth Leadership Symposium. And this symposium, which is 5 hours, it is an opportunity that the UNIA sponsored and has brought on myself, along with Sis Atia Ball-Lacey, and even Sis Atlantis Browder. The three of us have coordinated this, again, with the help of the UNIA, to bring in the young people, to give them an opportunity to learn from us, but to also speak about what's going on in their communities. And this 5-hour event involves music, it involves workshops, and it will culminate in an opportunity for them to not only reflect on what's going on in their communities, but to devise an action plan in tackling those issues. So we are allowing our young people the space to become leaders in their own right. And as they're doing that, they're evoking the legacies of Marion S. Barry as well as Nanny Helen Burroughs, two ancestors who did very powerful things in DC throughout the 18th, 19th, throughout the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. And also in doing so, we get to teach them more about the UNIA, teach them about universal African nationalism, and help them understand that we are our own sovereign people, that despite the circumstances put before us, and even during this election season, when once again, we are being called to be the deciding vote, that long before that happened, we had the power within ourselves and in our communities to be our own government. So there's a lot that touches on that. I'm very excited to, even be witness to this historic gathering of, powerful forces in the community that are doing well for the young people. And this will be the launching pad for more activities that will be conducted through the UNIA, because we're not going to leave these youth alone. We're going to work with them and bring them into the fold so that they can learn more about universal African nationalism, and they can even take on leadership roles at some point with enough training and guidance. So once again, Thursday, August 1st, 2024, doors open at 9 o'clock. The program starts at 10, it goes on to 3, and it'll be at Busboys and Poets in Brookland, right there by Catholic University on Monroe Street. One God, one aim, one destiny, one Africa.
So Sam, I know you got a lot more to share. We're gonna come back to you, but
No doubt.
I'm excited to hear from Mama Tendai because, we want to keep this balance. We know African women rule, and hopefully Dr. Chinzara is going to be able to join us from the Virgin Islands. But without any further ado, Mama Tendai, and you can take it any kind of way you want, Mama.
Well, thank you, Brother Sam. I'm so excited to be working with you and Sister Atia and Sister Atlantis. We who are the old folk, okay, who have been living this Pan-African life all this long, who have tried to find different ways to pass it on, we see that it has caught hold with some of our young people. And Sam P. Collins is an example of one of those who he's been very modest, but Senghor is going to explain more in terms of what Sam does as a journalist, as a teacher, as an author, as a tutorer, as a organizer for the Pan-African Leadership Organization. And we who are in the UNIA are also trying to say, none of our organizations are competitive, but rather we're all working towards the same goal. So we should lock arms and work together. What is happening with this particular symposium, that I want to, they're young people because, I have children their age, but they're also grown adults living their lives and making the same kinds of decisions that we were making when we were their age. So they have picked up the mantle, and we're trying to say, okay, we're relinquishing it to you, but at the same time, while we're still here, utilize us as your backup to help you formulate things, because as I have worked with the HBCUs, when I have come in contact with faculty and I saw them doing something that was independent, I said to them, someone made a sacrifice for this institution to be here for over 100 years. It's now in your hand for you to take it for the next 100 years. And so we have to begin to think in those kinds of slots when it's hard for us to even put together a 5-year strategic plan, but we have to begin to think in 100-year increments so that we can ensure that the work that we do makes a difference in terms of evolving our folk and helping them to assume their rightful place within the universe so that the universe is changed. So I'm grateful to Brother Sam, Sister Atia, who is unable to be with us this evening because this is her one day that she has to study. She's working on her PhD. And when I was a youth, Sam, what I used to be frustrated with was that I had to go back and get a college degree that I said wasn't going to make me any more smart and was going to make me any more dedicated to my community than I already was, but that my community demanded that I had those kinds of credentials behind me so that they could accept the work that I was doing. And we're still in that dichotomy. So we just have to work in any kind of capacity that we can. And I am truly looking forward to the outcomes of the Nanny Helen Burroughs, Big Bad Burroughs, and Big Bad Barry, whose legacy still exists. You know, the work that Marion Barry did is ongoing because we still have the summer youth programs. The programs that he did, folks are still trying to emulate across this country here to figure out how to do it during the summer. And he forced the government to commit to the financial support of young people in the DC metropolitan area. And so we can't let those kinds of legacies go, and we have to define what those people mean to us and not allow others to define them for us. And so
Absolutely.
we're grateful to have you and Sister Atia and Sister Atlantis to be able to do this and bring other young people in that age. I just want to share that one of the workshops is going to be on health. And so we have Sister Amataya, who is also a Pan-Africanist, a holistic practitioner and whatnot, to deliver one of the workshops. And they're going to address music because, you know, we're going to have the drumming on the 17th, and Brother Sangora is going to get more into it. But the rhythm of the drum is the rhythm of our heartbeat, is the rhythm of African people, and we move to rhythm, whether we're in pain or we are in joy. So it's important that they're addressing the issue of music within the workshops that they are presenting on August the 1st. So everybody who is here and everybody who can hear my voice, please continue to support Brother Sam P. Collins, Sister Atia Ball Lacey, Atlantis Browder with I King, and Brother Tony Browder, and Sister Dr. Matthias in the work that they are doing, because their work is legacy work as well.
Mama, thank you so much for that. You articulated that so well. I just want to also say that me and Mama Kathy are super happy that you've had the vision and the insight to put some balance there with the Mayor for Life Barry with Nanny Helen Burroughs. Nanny Helen Burroughs, for y'all that don't know, did some of the exact work that we are doing years ago. It's not just the Nanny Helen Burroughs Street. She had a school for African girls, Caribbean girls, and girls born in North America, and they were awesome. Nanny Helen Burroughs has a tremendous legacy. Mama Kathy, who is our ambassador of health and wellness, has been emulating her works because she was overcome with her spirit, her ancestral energy. So she actually emulates and actually channels Nanny Helen Burroughs. There's quite a few other people that are doing a lot of work around Nanny Helen Burroughs, but it's important for our young people to see. Most of them know of Marion Barry because, like just what Dr. Chinzara, I'm sorry, Mama Tendai just laid out, how clear that he's the Mayor for Life. He put together a youth program, and doing the I Thinks the Collard Greens summer programs that we held here in the DC, we actually had 12 girls who were on salary because of the Marion Barry Youth Program, who were able to be young mentees to the younger girls who came to the day camp. Now that camp has evolved into a thing where we take girls to South Carolina, not as many, but we wanted to be a little more tied into the quality. It just so happens that I'm Tyus's niece was one of the girls there with us for her second year. So it's what we do in South Carolina, and we call it Kwanzaa in July. So I'm going to stop on that point, but I just wanted to share that because it's the legacy of the ancestors of the work that they did, and it's plenty. But Sam, I don't know where y'all got the vision from, but y'all on point. Y'all chose two very powerful people. And I know we have our President General with us. I sent a message to him. I don't know whether he's active, but I want to if he is, I want him to open up his window and come in and share word, because we got this big convention coming up. But on August the 17th, right during convention, we called for an international drum call. And let me tell you some of the people who have answered. In the UK, they on the 17th are going to be in the Windrush Square in London with drummers led by Brother Shakara, our ambassador of the UK, and they call it Drums for Mosiah. Also, our third assistant president general, Chief Fode, is also in Freetown and I'm pulling up the flyer so I can tell y'all exactly where they're going to be. But the bottom line is they doing a Drums for Mosiah, and they're going to be tied to a roster group in Sierra Leone. I'm looking for the exact name, but anyway, it's a Rastafari collective. Of course, the government of the UNIA and Black Star Action Network International, along with others, are going to be on August the 17th, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., the Negus Complex at 210 Rengen Grafton Highway. And they say, bring your drum and come. And so that's going to be powerful. Also, in Accra, Ghana, there's a powerful thing going to be taking place called RBG 104. And I want to let you know that not only are we one of the sponsors, Division 330 is one of the sponsors, the president, the parent body, and the president general, we are sponsors. And we've also sent some sponsorship funds there to help support that. That event is going to be free, and it's called The Right to Return Back to Africa, August the 17th at 11 a.m. But at 5 p.m., they're going to be synchronized with us while we in Chicago drumming outside of Dusable Museum at 12 noon. They also are going to be drumming there. They have a lot of different sponsors. The First Bank of Ghana, Access Africa, Bessie Saka, that's a business, and several other groups are all co-sponsoring that event. And I'm telling you, they wired up, y'all, in Ghana around Garvey. I spoke to a brother in Colombia, South America. They spreading the word there. There's going to be drumming in Philadelphia. In Chicago, we're not only going to be drumming and dancing and celebrating because we're going to be at the climax of our convention. Mama Tendai and Dr. Chinzara and probably Mama Kathy and some of the other sisters there are going to bless us with libations. So we're going to be calling on our ancestors. But the idea of this is to have, as Mama Tendai said a little earlier, synchronized Blacktricity drumming. And I'm going to tell you like this. If you're not a drummer, beat your feet, clap your hands, beat on a table, do something to acknowledge we exonerate Garvey. We exonerate Garvey, and we emulating his works, words, and deeds, and Amy Jocks Garvey, and all those ancestors who gave us the black print to move forward to build what we're doing right now. But it's critical that we deal with, I'm going to say it like this, XYZ generation. And y'all don't get mad at me because I know so about the X generation, Z generation. I say XYZ because I want to put the youth in there. I want to put the Y in there. XYZ generation. That's who we're working for. What's going on in Kenya? What's going on in the Sahel? What's going on all over the world is uprising of young brothers and sisters led by our African women and our brothers. We have some brotherhood groups. We got a group called Kumunga, and we're not playing. We're trying to catch up with the African women and all the great work they're doing. So that means we're going to be locking arms and kicking it, y'all. We high up in the energy. And it's very important for us to not get so caught up in the cloud of the reptilian party and the democratic party, even though we don't want Chump to get in there. But we got some other things we're going to be doing during a Freedom Friday. I'm not going to get too into that. I want to keep the night all focused on African stuff. And it's very, very important for us to recognize that our ancestors did it, we can do it. Marcus Garvey said, man can do what man and woman have done. And there's no reason for us to sit back and wait on somebody else because they're not going to do it for us. In terms of reparations, I want to say that because we're talking August. We're looking at reparations in a continent. We want our land, we want our sovereign right, and we want everything they took out of Africa back. And we want Africans outside of Africa to understand Africa is their homeland. But I'm going to stop on that point. PG, are you with us? You with us, PG? Or are you in the background? Let me know. But anyway, for right now, I want to go back to Sam. And we're going to open it up for everybody that want to chime in. But I see I got my brother Julius. And my brother Julius is the one that connected me to my good brother in Colombia while I was at Medisage dealing with the children. Me and Julius was the male laborers. We did the heavy lifting, but the sisters did all the heavy work with the girls, and it was a powerful one. So I'm gonna let Julius, if he want to chime in on that, chime in on that. But anything else he want to chime in on, because one of the things Julius keeps not just me but us focused on is the real deal of darkness. There is no light without darkness. And when I say Blacktricity, I'm talking about the internal aspect of Blacktricity, the Most High, our ancestors, and all of that energy. Because we can't just save Africans, we got to save the planet. So we got to be science par excellence. We got to be practicing scientific Garveyism. So Sam, I want to segue back to you, because I want you to talk. Mama Tendai made it clear that you wear several hats. Not only are you an educator, not only are you a journalist, not only are you an activist with the Pan-African Federalist Movement, but you are a committed author who wrote Babylon Be Still. So talk to us.
And writes for the Informer.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but I also want to just say, and he's a father.
Nah, I'm a father to many.
The daddy too.
I don't know about that. He's a father of many youth.
I'm a father to many.
That's what I'm talking about. You're a father to all these children that you tutor.
Yes,
sir.
You are that male image that they may not have anywhere else.
All right, Sam.
Okay.
In terms of my work, I do write for the Informer. I do local coverage of the DC Council in the education space and everything else in between. That work has pretty much allowed me to go through DC and meet a lot of people. And in writing for the Informer, I do my best to provide coverage that informs people. And it's very interesting being in media because, as I explained in Babylon Be Still, if you come into the media atmosphere without knowledge of self and without that theoretical, cultural, social, and political orientation, you find yourself being locked in step with the powers that be that will take advantage of you and make you write for them, sort of be their mouthpiece. And I don't strive to be their mouthpiece. In writing for the Informer, and mind you, the Informer is a paper that came out of the civil rights era. There's still content in there that leans to the left as it relates to, supporting Democrats, of course, but I provide a viewpoint, or I provide opportunity for nationalists and for those who are considered radicals, to have their viewpoint in there as well. And people do appreciate the information that I put, because my goal is to equip people with the information that they need in order to be sovereign in their thinking and in order to operate as independent, free-thinking individuals. So I get a chance to do that every week and just about every day with the Informer. As far as my organizing work, in addition to my involvement with the UNIA, I'm a young adult coordinator for the Pan-African Federalist Movement of North America, which is a campaign. It's not an organization. It's a campaign composed of different organizations. And our ultimate goal is to conduct the first Pan-African Federalist Congress through which we can trigger the formation of the United African States through the grassroots. So this whole concept of United African States, it started with Garvey being designated the first provisional provisional president of Africa during the 1920 convention at the Madison Square Garden. And that legacy permeated throughout the decades. And so with Kwame Nkrumah, of course, the Casablanca bloc what they attempted to do. And we just want to keep that movement going on. And it's very important that we talk about that, especially given what's happened in the Sahel with the formation of a confederation. It's not a federation just yet, it's a confederation, but it's one step closer to what we're trying to achieve in the grassroots. And you see, even now, with the formation of that confederation, you have ECOWAS that's still, walking lock and step with the colonizers as well as the AU, and they're trying to move the Ivory Coast and Liberia toward them, as well as Nigeria. Nigeria, with it being a big power within ECOWAS, is definitely countering or attempting to counter what's happening in the Sahel. And I bring up Liberia because today marks 177 years of independence, so-called independence. And you might have seen this online. It circulated. The orator at the event, Dr. Rob Tell Niezja Paley, she had a long speech, of course, but one segment of that speech in which she criticized the U.S. blew up virally on the internet because it forced the U.S. embassy officials to walk out of the event. They were just disgusted with it. She said that the United States has taken more from Liberia than it has given Liberia, and Liberia will not be the stepchild. And this was a very polarizing comment at a time when the United States is leveraging its relationship with Liberia, just as the French are getting dogged in the Sahel and the other powers are moving in trying to get a piece of the pie. So we're looking at the second scramble for Africa. We're looking at the perpetuation of U.S. military power that, aligns with the expansion of the police state here in the United States. And then speaking again about my work with the Informer, in DC as well as in other major cities, this so-called crime wave that they're talking about in the post-pandemic era, it has triggered calls for more police in the streets, for stronger laws. So as the DC Council talks about the Secure DC Act, and they're bringing in drug-free zones once again, they have anti-mask laws once again, of course, and they have other things. DC jail population is ballooning, and there are also questions about, well, how can people get their fair trial within less than a year? Because the stipulation is, if you are accused of a crime, you have a right to a speedy trial. And given what was written in the Secure DC Act, a lot of people who are accused of violent crimes can't even post bail. So that has been put on again. Very draconian laws that are happening in a police state, just as the U.S. military industrial complex is expanding on the continent and wherever else we find ourselves in the world. So it's my job to unite and organize with like-minded people, organizations, organizers, institutions, and just tightening up so that we can collaborate around how best to tackle those solutions while helping each other out. And, that's what I do as an organizer pretty much. As far as an educator, it's the same thing in the sense that as I'm educating young people, exposing them to written works, exposing them to the news, all while teaching them the conventions in English grammar and helping them have an understanding about how they can write better. So, quite a lot of work. As I explained in Babylon Be Still, that was pretty much my transition over a period of 10 years or so coming out of college. I haven't seen for myself, and it's funny because, you come up in DC and, they crown you as the exception until you go into a college environment and you coming out of public school. But a lot of these young people, your peers, they're boarding school trained. So they were the exception as well. And they came up through boarding school. I'm not going to say they had a bit of brainwashing, but you go into these dorms and you start hearing people talk, you start seeing that you're different. So I had to reconcile that difference. It wasn't until I got my education outside of my education that I saw things for what they truly were. And the book explains all of that. So as always, I'm happy to be here. I think that now in these times, especially, we do need to uphold the tenets of universal African nationalism to help people understand what is at stake and to help people understand that we have always had a government, and when speaking about Black August, I'll make this my last point. I think that it's my most important point. Had it not been for our political prisoners, those who were killed in battle, because we were always in a battle, those who are currently rotting away in the prison system, and those who and those who came home only to spend their twilight years with family, broke before they transition onto the other realm. Had it not been for them, we would not have black mayors. We would not have black governors. We would not have the first black president, because they were the ones who scared the establishment into accepting black Democrats as the alternative. They brought on black Democrats to pacify us. And as they and as those Democrats came in, we had our Shirley Chisholms, of course, and whoever else. As they came in, we forgot more and more about our political prisoners and our warriors, to the very point that if you look at 1980s, 1990s, and even early 2000s propaganda, we have our black police officer family members and whoever else telling us to abstain from taking on a violent stance, because we got to protect our place in the democratic machine, which, by the way, is not only just us in there. There are other interest groups that have more political influence that leverage our vote at the last minute only to do nothing for us. So as we talk about Black August, we got to talk about those who pretty much brought to the vanguard of what's called the struggle, because they are the ones who did what had to be done. And to this day, you look in media, they get vilified, they get called hoteps. The Wayans brothers, I talk about the Wayans brothers all the time. The Wayans brothers, the Sean and Marlon, they had the funniest sitcoms ever in the 90s. But their older brother, the oldest brother in Living Color, he lampooned us. Those of us who are Pan-Africanists, he lampooned us. He embarrassed us. He made it uncool in the eyes of the masses to be a Pan-Africanist. And that was by design, as they integrated the majority of us into the Democratic Party so that we can play it safe. And these are the very same people who are in all parts of government bombing our people in Africa, bombing our people in Colombia, so forth and so on. So we got to tighten ranks. And one more thing, I know I keep saying one more thing, it's very important. They are co-opting Pan-Africanism. So we got to take it back. We got to be grassroots about how we doing it. And we got to establish an economic base, because, that's how we bring people in. We got to provide clothing, food, and shelter. And, that's going to require some discussion about, socialism, because a lot of these black socialists, I have to call them out respectfully, they keep calling Garvey a capitalist erroneously and in bad faith during conversations. Garvey was not a monopoly capitalist. A co-op or a business that you can buy stock into as an owner is not the same as you as the sole person controlling the means to production. Garvey was not doing that. So we got to articulate those differences and help people not be afraid of money, because we are very afraid of making money. We can't do anything without controlling resources. So how do we get to that to entice our young people to follow what we're doing? And I'll stop there. Asante Sana.
Excellent, brother. Excellent. And I must segue back to my dear sister, Mama Tendai. Sam, we appreciate you. We love you. It is very, very important. I know there are a lot of brothers and sisters like-minded, like you, that are striving to address their peers and to raise up. But you're absolutely correct about how important it is for us not to be used by someone else. We got to practice self-determination and self-reliance. And so I want to segue to Mama Tendai, because I want everybody that's listening to understand we're not just intellectualizing. We're spirit beings having a physical experience. And we want to connect to our spirit, because in the spirit of the whirlwind, Marcus Garvey said, count on him to be the real Marcus Garvey. And there is power in death, because we know from the womb to the tomb. And it's important for us to have in everything we do the vibration, the spiritual component. So I'm going to stop right there and segue to my dear sister, Mama Tendai, because she too is a little modest, because she does a lot of work and has done a lot of work over many, many years, not just with Fadasi, but with a lot of groups ever since I've known her. And she is, well, I'm going to let her tell you. Mama Tendai.
I just wanted to continue to throw the kudos on Brother Sam and to send the love energy to him and to the sisters who are working with him. because we have to continue to lift them up and not only lift them up, but to put our arms of protection around them so they don't end up in the same situation that our brothers and sisters, like you were talking about, Brother Sam, who became the sacrificial lambs. Most of us have gone through that, could have climbed up various ladders, but our dedication to our people and to Pan-Africanism kept us from going that direction. And I have always said we have got to provide, like you're saying, the means of survival for our own. Even when I was working and cooking at Ujamaa, after work, my response was, how are we going to ensure that the children who are finishing in these Pan-African institutions that only go up to high school, what's going to happen to them afterwards? Okay, we have to provide the means for their security for them to go on. We need some of them to be doctors and lawyers and this, that, and the other, because we need that support for that level of energy in our community for it to become independent. And we hadn't put that together. We still haven't put it together. So, you know, we still have much work to do. That's why I'm saying we'll have to work together to see if we can't get over some of these hurdles. But I do want to mention one thing, that in the process, the Brother Sam, when he's teaching, he's using historical figures to teach young people how to write, which I think is extremely important, because most of our children who are in the public schools, many of them, if I go into a school, they have Martin Luther King Day, they don't know who he is. And he's recent. So if it were not for, like Brother Sam, teaching them how to write and giving them information on how to write on one of my persons who I love, Ida B. Wells, okay, because she was a fierce warrior, all right, and was willing to take on anything, anytime, for him to teach them how to write through giving a historical, okay, there, yes, through her history. And and so I have to applaud you also for that, dear brother, and just remind you, as an African historian, our history is of confederations. When you think of the three kingdoms, because they want to call them kingdoms, but they were nations, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai were confederations of other ethnic groups and so on and so forth that were in other territories that agreed to come together to work together under a one government structure. So that kind of thing is as we move more into federation, we need to get, you know, we're moving in that direction to work with that kind of thing to come together. And I think, as Brother Senghor talks about the Ma'at decrees, that is one of the ways in which we are trying to address that issue through the UNIA right now. But the other thing is too, that as we talk about the program that you're going to be having on the 1st, and also because it's Emancipation Day celebration, Baba, we all need to come together before he starts, okay? And all of us basically say a prayer of upliftment and create some energy, like you're saying, even if we're just beating our heart or whatever, so that his program and Emancipation Day is successful and carries the energy that we are hoping for, so that the young people who are engaged in that program will be thoughtful and who will come out with some ideas that we can then truly build upon to help us to go forward in terms of the development of our youth at more ages than yours. So we got to have the generations below you as well to pick up this work and go forward.
Brother Julius, you want to chime in?
Well, I listen to everybody saying all the good things that should be said. And I remember when I was a youth organizer at 19 years old, and the FBI just kept harassing us and stopping us everywhere we walked, everywhere we went, broke in my house, took all my clothes. Just being a student organizer in the 1970s. And other people ended up in jail and ended up dead, of course, too, in this process. But Garvey told us to have the vision. What is the vision of 500 years from now for our people? What does that look like? How do you see the pyramids, if not as a vision put before the people, an objective to be met? Because without that objective, you keep fighting for food, shelter, and clothing, and you don't make no progress forward without the vision. I'll leave that one there.
Yeah, well,
Said, yes, sir.
you know, so I really wanted to
Baba, that's why I'm stopping at 100 years. If we can get to the 100 years, then we'll be able to have a vision for 500. But you are correct.
all right, so it's a
Well,
kind
we
of
got 100 that just left.
yes. Yeah, so you know, y'all, if you don't know, we are all following our cosmic assignments.
Hmm.
And once those cosmic assignments are connected, that's what I call blacktricity. And I want to make it clear, it ain't about me, he, or she. It's about we collectivity. Blacktricity don't belong to me. Blacktricity is in you. It's in you. It's in all of us. And right now, I know we are talking about August and how important it is. And I wanted to make sure people are clear. When I was able to travel to the UK, I was treated with royalty. Before I was President General, I was third assistant. When I went back as President General, the Al-Qabilan revivalist movement was carrying on the works of Garvey. And you know what? There was no UNIA division in the UK since Garvey. But now there is, thanks to the Al-Qabilan revivalist movement. And I want to stress that because if you do not know, Garvey was last in the UK. Garvey was run out of the US of A. He was run out of Jamaica, really, technically speaking, because I mean he was jailed there in Jamaica too. And Garvey made it clear. I ain't taking an island over a continent. So Garvey was absolutely clear Africa was our home. So I want to segue to our President General, who is here with us, and I believe he's going to open up his microphone and turn on his camera. So if you do hear me, PG, you know, come on in because I know you've heard a lot, but we coming up on August. You and I, when I came into UNIA, you know, I'm so glad you mentioned that, bro. When I came into UNIA, I was a fiery revolutionary, brother. I was ready for the revolution. I said, I found Marcus Garvey. Let's get it going. You know what I mean? I was ready for the revolution because I was also dealing with the AAPRP, the PGRNA, and of course, NBUF was started, all the other groups. But I was so, and this is for you too, Sam.
Ready to roll.
I was so fired up. I thought I had found.
I used to wear a bullet belt.
Yeah, I was so fired up. And you know what the elder Garveyites who worked with Garvey told me? They said,
settle down.
Son, we so glad you're here. Sit down and learn from us and listen, because you know you got a lot to learn. But if it were not for the Nkrumahs, Baba Akili, Sister Sewa, Brother Sababu, Brother Hassim, Brother Hakeem, and the Nkrumahs, I probably would have left because you know what I said. I grew up as a nationalist. I found the Garvey movement. Now where's the revolution? And they said, son, sit down and listen. But because I saw my peers, the Nkrumahs, and check this out, they were all Nkrumahs. They had a school. They had a school called the Marcus Garvey School. And they said to me, bruh, we've been hearing this for a while. Chill out. Brother Jackson Bay say, Senghor, where you going, man? You done been all over the place. This is it. And I found out. And now here I am now, an elder reaching out to people like you, Sam. But anyway, I'm going to segue to my good brother, Akili Nkrumah, who while I served as President General for 8 years, I couldn't have done it without him being my first assistant. And now I'm his first assistant, and we're going to make sure we get the work done and passed on to your generation, Sam. Baba Akili Nkrumah, President General.
Asante Sana, first, let me say we will continue to get the work done. Continue. The history that you cite is real, and so is the struggle for liberation of African people, and so is this conversation. I think what we have to also focus on is where we are and what we must do as a people, and what conversations we need to hold. Because you see, I think our young people need answers to the questions. And I also believe that our youth need trust in those of us who have come before them. And I think some of that has been lost, not so much in the movement, but in our communities throughout. I think we have to also recognize the value of education. Single mentioned the Marcus Garvey Shule of positive education. I still run into students from that institution who look and say, Baba, is that you? You don't look no different. Now I know I look different, y'all, but my students see the same. And what I need us to understand is that age is not significant to our value. It is truly only how we measure time spent. Sam PK Collins is the youth on this call, far as I can tell, on this call. But he is not the youth that he deals with. He passes the message from us to them. We build bridges and gateways. Part of what's important is how we structure and how we move. The work is always going to be how we are measured, what our life meant. The men and women that we hold on high because of the work they did, because that's how we know them. We don't know them just because. They're not in a history book just because. Because for many of us, what we have to do is research our ancestral spirit to understand it all. It's like knowing that my great-great-grandfather killed a European because he insulted my great-great-grandmother, which says to me that African womanhood is on high, and whatever we need to do to protect that, we do. Because when he lived, he had no freedoms, but he had the freedom of choice to do what he had to do. So a lot of us don't know that history. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I think the topic of conversation is very valid and very real. I'm going to be here. And yes, I will always be listening if I'm not even on camera, understanding that for real, our value to each other is what we bring to it. What we bring to the struggle, what we bring to the camaraderie, what we bring to the sisterhood and the brotherhood. Sisters are always going to be the key. Brothers will be the lock.
Yeah.
Back to you, Brother Single.
Yeah, no, I like that one, brother. I don't remember that one. So it's kind of important, though, for us to recognize that many of us are called, but all of us have assignments. And that's important because when Mama Tendai was reached out to, she was not reached out to us, reached out to be a part of what we were doing because we just like her. She does the work. She's a worker. And I say that, Mama Tendai, because honestly speaking, you, me and Dr. Shinsbrough were talking about that the other day. You were called to do this work. You've been doing it all along. And many of us that have been involved with different entities, that's the key. We got to understand that we say entities, but we are a government. And it's hard for people to wrap that around their mind because they've been so programmed with Yurugu governments and Black Yurugu governments that they don't understand the need, like Sam say, for a universal Pan-African governing body.
May I?
Yes, I know I was going to fire you up. I know you heard that.
You see, people don't understand what a government is. We've been inundated to a governmental structure that is based on a European value system. That's the government that we know. What we have is a government that's based on principles, based on values, and based on a direction for the people of which it is intended to govern. We may not be able to pass laws past those who do, but what we do is we give an example of what laws need to be passed and how we need to move. We govern in the sense that we collectively listen, hear, Listen and hear, two different things, because you can hear something and not listen to it. So when you listen and you hear and you govern based on those things, you govern based on principles of Africa and African ancestral spiritual movement, because you hear the movement, you hear the spiritual value, make it happen. So yes, we are a government. People must ask me, and who and how do you govern? And we govern based on principle, based on values, based on purpose, based on truth, based on reciprocity, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the movement of Pan-Africanism. And I say Pan-Africanism for this reason and this reason only, because around the world, people of African descent, regardless of what language you speak, has to realize that our DNA make us one.
Great point. That's why this drum call is so important, y'all. And it's important because we got to sound a language that we all can relate to, and we all shake our behinds when we get that rhythm. You know what I'm saying? When you hear the beat of the drum and you start moving, everybody can relate. I don't care whether you speak in Portuguese, I don't care whether you speak in French, I don't care whether you speak in English, all the African dialects, all Swahili, you can relate to the sound of the drum. And you know, here in Washington, D.C., we had what we call the Junkyard Band. And what they did, they went out and got plastic containers and they learned how to beat on plastic containers. They had to go buy no instruments. They took music out of schools. And then you go to Trinidad, they took the oil cans and they turned them around and made steel drums, sound just like a piano. So we are creative. That flows through us. And Mama Tendai mentioned it earlier, and I want to kind of elaborate on it because that's what we're going to be dealing with on the first two. You got to understand the right rhythm and the right messages. You know, whenever you got the wrong kind of rhythm, like Sunrise say, space is the place, and he say everything on earth right now is out of order. So I'm going to play this out of order and show you how to bring it into order. I'm talking about on the keyboards. But it's important for us to get that music moving. And if you know about the so-called hip-hop movement, y'all understand, we ain't talking about rape music. I didn't say rap, I said rape music. We ain't talking about rape music. We're talking about real hip-hop. And if you understand the hip-hop culture, it goes all the way back. And as my brother Haru Forayata say, Jolly Kundas, the poet was the messenger to bring the message. So whether it be Fela, whether it be Bob Marley, whether it be Michael Jackson, Prince, you name it, if a message comes with good music, it vibrates to you and you resonate with it and you jam. That's the kind of rhythm we need to talk about. Not this foolishness, beating down women, attacking one another.
But
That's
Baba,
destruction.
what they don't understand is that in much of the rhythm of the music that's being conveyed, they are calling a warrior energy without recognizing that's what they're doing. Because the beat of the music, the rhythm that is being conveyed is one that's been used by our ancestors to call the warriors from the earth to assist us in our struggle. So we call, and without knowing how to use the energy that we have created. I'm thinking about the fact that, even with Martin Luther King, when he pulled people together and got everybody together to vote, and then I said, what are you going to do with the energy that you have created? So we have to think a little further. That's why I'm saying at least 100 years ahead, because we have to understand the power of the energy of that vibration. The Zulus during apartheid every morning used to go and make the call that was calling down apartheid.
The energy. Yes.
And people would say, why would you do this? Because they said they were putting sound energy into the universe because they recognized the power of that energy,
Right,
and that rhythm and whatnot. And we do have today, well, we did have before a few weeks ago, and South Africa that had freed itself.
yeah.
So
Right.
the energy that you are pulling together is a vibration.
Yeah.
That us doing it all at the same time will help to create a synergy. hopefully
from vibe to spirit and then to soul, which is
that is going to help you also give us the internal energy to be more creative about how we move forward in manifesting and bringing about the universe that Marcus Garvey had laid out in the works that he's done and in his philosophy.
Because his energy and the energy of the ancestors is the energy that moves us.
Yes.
It is the warrior's cry. And the warrior was not male, so let me be clear. It's the warrior's cry to move us forward that makes it relevant. We, as a people, have so often stepped away from that which brought us this far. We moved away. We moved away from the rhythm. We moved away from the song.
We've been hoodwinked.
We moved
We've
away.
bamboozled, brother. We were
Well,
hoodwinked.
some of that's true. No, some of that is true, but also some of it is that we made a conscious or unconscious decision that this is what we had to do. And therefore the hoodwink worked.
Yeah, and you know,
That's why it worked.
Yeah, but it's a thing like the master drummers, you know, Baba Olatunji, Baba
Yep.
Nkrumah, Chief Bey, all of them said the drum in the heart of one. And,
Yeah.
and if you don't, if your heart ain't beating, then you ain't moving. You understand? So
Right.
you got rhythm, and like Mama Tendai said, you know, and you said it too. That drum is so important, and I know as a djembe player, I know how important that is to help heal you. It's healing. It's not just a thing where you jump up. You know, somebody say, well, how can you do that? You know, you look at those elders dancing, look at how they moving, you know, but when that rhythm hits you, it's almost, you can do almost anything. You can make those steps, and that's that synergy. Wait, go ahead, Julius. You got something you want to share, Julius?
Well, I was going to say that is that neuromelanin, that dark energy at work.
I know
That dark energy is everywhere, in between every toe and every finger and every soul and every cell.
Hey, like Mama Cappy and them, Julius, Mama Cappy and them song, every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. That's that. So I'm so glad every little cell. These are a little song that we sang with the girls. I'm just trying to say to y'all, it's very important. So I love myself so much, so I can love you so much, so you can love me so much, and so we can start loving each other. I'm just saying those are the kind of messages. But when I'm coming back to you, Julius, because what you just said is critical. The voice is sound. When we talk, when we vibe, when we sing, all of that is sound, and sound has an effect all the time. So when you got the wrong kind of beats, or you got some of the right kind of beats with the wrong messages, it take you all the balance. And that's one of the most important things that we need to understand about music. It's like we got some of the greatest artists around, but the wrecking industry is very clear that once it rises, it's going to bring change. So when you got that powerful hip hop happening, Malcolm X shirts, Martin Luther King shirts, all of a sudden the record industry had to change it. But the point I'm making is that there's not. Go ahead, Julius.
ASR1.
Yes.
We started with that, and all of a sudden it became gangster rap.
Yes. Yes.
That's
right.
all they would put on the radio.
That's right. That's right. It's very important. And then when those messages started coming, and that goes all the way back even before so-called hip hop, you know, with Gil Scott-Heron, the last poets, it goes back before them. It goes back to, like I said, Brother Haru Forayata, Jolly Kunda, you know, and I understand that because we have some of the most powerful poets around. And when you hear the poets and you hear them drop that message, and when it resonates, you see everybody move. So that's rhythm. But at any rate, I'm gonna get back to the.
But Baba, that's what we have going on with the youth now. Even though it's words we don't necessarily want to hear, Look at the genius
Yes.
of them being able to do what they say spit. Look at the genius of them being able to create on the spot.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
but that's that blacktricity. That's that dark
Exactly.
melanin matter Julie's talking about.
When
If-
I was a young woman, I remember praying for the warriors to be born, not recognizing that we were giving birth to them.
Mhm.
But in many instances, we didn't give it direction. So we
Mhm.
have a warrior class that exists that doesn't have a head, a direction to move it in that is positive. So it's reaching out and being able to grab that and give the direction it needs to go with the warriors. Because you already know them brothers, the brothers out here on the street are not afraid of anything
Right.
or anybody.
Right. Yeah. So I also want to throw out there, I did not mention August the 31st, because also during the Declaration of Rights of African Negro Peoples of the World, August the 31st was established as African Independence Day. So we ain't talking about no 4th of July. We're talking about what in 1920, over 25,000 Africans came to Madison Square Garden for the first convention of the UNIA, where Marcus Garvey was elected president general, and he also was elected president of Africa. And that Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World also had in it August the 31st was our African Independence Day. So during that time, and of course, we, the rehabilitating committee, is bringing our people back to that. Because when we talk about independence, we're not talking about independence in North America, independence in South America, independence in Africa, independence in the UK. We're talking about independence for all African people worldwide. And that's so important. So this drum call is very important. And I want people to be very clear. Everything that we are organizing is being able to organize with other organizers. Mama Tendai spoke to this, and I want to stress it because it's important. We're reaching out to align ourselves in the Garveyist Mahat Unity Agreement. And brothers and sisters need to understand that that synchronicity will take us somewhere if everybody following agreement is between the Pan-African organizations that see program and align their work and resources, particularly when it is more advantageous to move forward with locked arms to achieve a desired Pan-African goal. This agreement does not mean the absorption of one group by another. Instead, it recognizes the African spirit of Mahat as an operational basis for working together successfully for African people. In a shared space of social and political values, Mahat calls forth order, justice, reciprocity, truth, harmony, righteousness, mutual respect, and the importance of maintaining faith and working cooperatively toward a dynamic and operational Pan-African world. We then agreed to work together and in cooperation on joint Pan-African projects based on the principles of Mahat to the achievement of operational and sustained Pan-Africanism in this world and along that way will not take public positions against each other or engage in character assassination efforts. That's what we're calling on. And I wanted to read that so all of y'all out there listening who haven't gotten with us or haven't got back with me or haven't signed on, you need to sign on. This is not a contract. This is a Mahat Mobutu agreement, an agreement that we can work together at the work table. President General mentioned it. We want, well, I'll take that back. Not the work table, the work room, because there may be more than one table in the room, but we want to be in the room. We want to work together and set aside your differences. I got a strange call today, and I'm PG. I'm not going to put it out there too public, but I got a strange call today from a brother that I did not expect to hear from in another place. And I told him point blank, ain't no love lost. We're rehabilitating the race. We're not just rehabilitating the government, the UNIA. We're striving to rehabilitate the African race. So anybody that we might have had indifferences with, set that aside. Meet us with your work. Don't come with no other stuff. You hear what I'm saying? So, but it's important because we have this agreement that we're working on with other groups. We can't do it all, but together we're better. So I'm
Now,
on.
I, was-
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Go
Like,
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
sometimes your pauses are like just and you
I pause in the blacktricity source and
yeah, I
just
know
wire
you,
it up,
but your
bro.
pause says
And wire
says
up
the
the
time.
right side and the left side.
Uh, See, one of the thrusts that's important based on the comments that you made is that it's the work. If you want to talk about unity, talk about work. If you want to talk about a collective movement, talk about work. If you think you have disagreements, talk about the work. Because it is the work that is necessary to move us forward. We point to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and we point to him for a reason. We point to the Honorable Malcolm X, and we point to him for a reason. We talk and point to Amos Wilson for a reason. We point to ancestral spirits, female and male, Henrietta Vinton Davis, Amy Jacques Garvey, for a reason. The reason is the work. I may not agree on some things with you, but if we work on behalf of the race and moving the race forward to independence, moving the race forward to nation building, regardless of what I disagree with you on, I have to accept the work. Therefore, unity is built in what we do. You can disagree with me. You can not like me. I ain't trying to be liked by everybody. No way, no how. Isn't that damn important? Excuse my vernacular. That's not that important. You ain't got to like me. Like the work. Respect the work. You can be the youth, but respect the work, because I have to respect the work that you do. The work cuts across all genres. It cuts across philosophical differences. I don't have to be Muslim or Christian, but if I'm either one of them, if I'm a good Muslim, I'm a good Christian. If I'm a good Christian, I'm a good Muslim. If I'm a good African-centered religious body, then all those religions, because they come from me, okay with me. If you do the work, not your faith, if you do the work. We have to move people of African descent, our people and our ancestral spirit, to the point that we recognize the value of the work that we do. Because when we recognize the value of the work that we do, differences fall to the wayside. You want unity? Value the work. You work for children? I value your work. You work for ancestors? You work for elders? I value your work. You work politically, I value your work. You work economically, I value your work. And when we can value the work and recognize that if we put all of that together, it becomes one, then liberation is not just at your doorstep, it's within your grasp. Freedom is there because of the work. There's folks I disagree with, but I respect the work.
So, Brother Leonardo, Brother Congo, you all have anything that you wish to share, or anybody else? I mean, you're welcome to, if you want to just share in the reasoning, because we're on Facebook and we say to everybody listening, and we also are YouTubing this, that it's important for us to share this information, this discussion, because if we don't talk to each other and stop, always texting one another and not communicating with one another, and I know we're not all in the same room right now, but we all got each other's vibes. We can feel and see each other, and that's power. That's power. So I just want to open up and see. Congo is saying he has nothing to say.
Senghor,
Go ahead, Haru.
one thing to think about, especially for sound and music, is that the body is primarily like 70–80% water. And when you think, when people are singing the songs of liberation and power, first thing is the spoken word transmit through air, which is a water medium. and then the vibration hits all of the sensory nerves of the skin. And then internally, the energy signature is actually embedded or transmutated onto the energy bodies, the physical and non-physical bodies as well.
So, so y'all know Brother Heru is our Blacktricity engineer. And not only that, he's a food genius, raw food genius. Raw food. But he's an engineer by profession. And Brother Heru, I want you to go ahead and elaborate a little more because, as I told you about this whole thing about Blacktricity and how it came to me, Brother Haru Farayata always tell me like, Senghor, you need to brand that. I say, yeah, well, I'm trying to brand it on people so they understand that they got the Blacktricity. And that happened to me when I went to Ghana for my first time. Now we got a division in Ghana, thanks to Brother Tashaka, and they pushed Blacktricity. I mean, they loved it because, see, it's theirs. And they asked me, they're like, bro, can we make t-shirts? I say, it's yours, bro. It's not mine. So what I'm saying is more of us that understand that Blacktricity can be passed on by vibration and a hug. Just what you said, just Haru. You don't need no plug. You don't have no electricity without Blacktricity. You don't have no life without Blacktricity. You don't have no love without Blacktricity. You don't have no nothing without Blacktricity. And so that's why I say, they say, well, where did Blacktricity come from? Hey,
Ancestral intelligence.
hey,
AI.
the most high, and it come from the AI. Y'all are absolutely right. Because
Um,
it's more of them than it is us.
but before you, and I know we're looking at time, I just want to set stage for a conversation that I know is coming. We're at a time when white America is setting the stage for your re-incarceration, your re-enchainment. It is called Project 2025. We will be with a collective group of brothers, potentially sisters, putting on platforms to discuss Project 2025. And Brother Sam, since you're the youngest on this call, it is a call out to the youth to understand what is necessary in order to prevent Detroit. Now, I know y'all saying, what do you mean by Detroit? I know you know Mama Tendai. I know Brother Leonard knows. I know Brother Julius knows. See, in Detroit, they put the army on the street at a time of rebellion. Brother Sam shaking his head, so now I know he know. So that becomes the state of America because the Caucasian, although he doesn't say he wants to put you back in chains, he wants to chain your every movement. And Project 2025 is not only the foundation for it, you have an egotistical, narcissistic, and I won't say the other two words that came to my mind, person that wants to make sure that that moves forward. He is anti anything that gives any freedom to African women and particularly African men. So listen for those conversations to come. And then begin to start that conversation with young people that you talk to. Project 2025. What's so interesting is a Caucasian male, and I'm being polite because we're on Facebook, stood up and said, it will be your next civil war, but it won't be bloody if your ass submit to me. So y'all know it gonna be bloody if we don't defeat it.
You must be
Thank you,
talking
brother.
about you must be talking about that orange tangerine. But the bottom line though is PG, you was right on point with that because you weren't here earlier. I did mention that. I mentioned that Freedom Fridays and a lot of us, I also talked to Sam a little bit about it. That wasn't live, but we definitely on point with that. That's important because we're gonna fly, we're gonna surf right back, right along with that and bring it right back to Pan-African governmental self-determination is the answer. It is the defense, it's the offense, and it's where we got to go. And it's timely because I personally believe this is a personal thing, y'all. This ain't coming from the first assistant. It's coming from, me personally. I personally believe our ancestors are kicking some ass now. Excuse my language. They kicking and they making things happen. And I'm gonna say this to you all, and I know it's out there publicly. You know, I'm not in love with the Democratic Party nor the Reptilian Party. But what the President General just said to y'all was about our party. It's about our party. And I'm not talking about our political party. I'm talking about our universal government that will take back Africa and all those resources. We want reparations in Africa. Y'all hear what I said? Now, I want to make that clear. We want reparations in Africa. So everything Urugu has done, we want undone and returned to us. That's a great start for repair. And if you're not going to repatriate physically, repatriate in investment and in your mind and in your spirit, because that's where it's at. The whole world is Africa, y'all. You can't get around it. Everybody is there because they know Africa is the center of the world. It is the life. Listen, if we free up the Congo alone, we could feed the world. Just the Congo. But we want all Africa. That's why we got the One Africa Commission. So anyway, I'm gonna stop because I want Sam and Mama Tendai to chime in and Brother Julius. I want y'all to have y'all say.
Brother Pascal didn't have an opportunity to speak.
Right? Are you brother? Yeah. By the way, Brother Leonardo is one of our new members. For y'all that do not know, he's not just a guest here, he's also a member. And he's a brother who was ignited by Runoko Rashidi, who is still our traveling ambassador. And Brother Leonardo knows that he's connected with us. And when he called me up and reconnected, he said, brother, you just don't know how Runoko influenced me. So anyway, Brother Leonardo.
Hey, I'm just getting my energy, my electricity from my elders, listening in. I gotta listen in here, getting that energy. I'm waiting for the big thing to happen in Chicago. I'm in this area, so
All right, you just muted yourself. Yeah, you back. Okay, but so what Leonardo is saying,
I was just
go ahead, Leonardo.
I was just saying I'm listening in. I'm getting my electricity from my elders, and I will be in Chicago.
That's what I was saying, Mama Tendai. He gonna meet us in Chicago. Brother Julius, what you got? Bro, I want y'all to know, y'all. Let me tell y'all something, man. While I was at Medisage, Julius helped keep me sane. Because, it's when I say sane, I don't mean y'all out my mind to the point I wasn't. But Medisage, Mama Tendai knows. She's been there. She knows it's a healing space. And with girls and women, y'all know how that energy is, man. It was just amazing. So, but I was one of the major laborers. But Julius, because he was on point there, kept me sane. And what I mean by that is kept me focused on the Garveyite that I am. And every time he had an opportunity, he would share some wisdom with me. So I want Julius though to chime in on this thing, man, because he makes me very clear that Blacktricity is what we need, and he consistently does it in many ways, not only through talking but through sharing documentation to prove that we on point. Julius.
Thank you, brother Singleton. Thank you. As I said earlier, as a young student movement activist for Pan-Africanism, Garvey gave us a vision that was broadest, that talked about all African people globally becoming part of one giant nation, if you want to call it that, one giant nation. But it's not a nation the way Europeans define nations. It's not a nation that has borders around it. It has people united through the different organizations, and as President General is saying, based on their work. Now, their work has to be defined by functions. It has to serve a particular function. And that's where you have to have a vision. You have to paint that vision so the people, doing work study groups all over University of Maryland. I had 2 young students from Guinea-Bissau in our work study group. And I said, well, you're here at the University of Maryland and you plan to get your degree. They said, no. I said, oh, you came here not to get a degree? I said, no, our assignment is to learn how to move water. We came to the University of Maryland to learn how to irrigate, move, create water. We don't need a PhD. We got our own government. And it shook me at first. It's like, oh, God, there's something else you can do with education. You can actually use the education when you have an organization, when you have a plan, when it's laid out. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to achieve. This is what it's going to look like when it's finished. And that's why I was saying that, these pyramids are a big example. They're an example of what you can do. Wasn't no aliens. There wasn't no super intelligence. It was concrete and solar energy. Them blocks ain't cut with no stones. Them blocks were poured with concrete. And the concrete's laying all around the pyramids. All you gotta do is mix it with water and pour it in place. 1 drop of water is universal measurement in the world. If you have 1 drop of water, it's always the same size everywhere. Europeans call it a centimeter. Well, we were using it a long time ago, and it allowed us to build anything we wanted to build, because when you have 1 unit of measure, then you can draw, you can design, you can plan having 1 unit of measure. And then you can achieve that objective. So the pyramids represent what you can plan, build, and achieve. What do you use it for? Hey, Europeans say it don't have no functional value. We know it's a spiritual tool. It speaks about the faith of the people. It speaks about the vision of the future. What can we do? We have to set that vision before the children, so they just don't want to be a doctor. I knocked on so many doors in dormitories as a student organizer, asking students, say, why'd you come to college? Get a job. To get a job where? Ooh. They don't teach entrepreneurialism in college. At least they weren't then. Now it's become a new term to talk about entrepreneurialism, because that's how the middle class is built. Their whole plan is to build a new middle class, and their objectives are already stated, Pan-African wise, that Africa will have the largest middle class in the world by 2050.
Yep. I hear you,
So
brother.
what is our vision? How does our vision look different than that? What are we building? What does that future look like? Where's the harmony in our family? Where's the relationships between men and women that produce a new child, a new youth?
Excellent questions, if I may say, Senghor. But the vision of the white people now is no longer where's the middle class, because we're not included in the conversation. We're not. They have written.
But that's the middle class here.
Yes, I know.
Okay,
but
the new vision here was to make this a 3rd world country.
And that concept, because of European positions, transcends geographical locations. Because if we allow them to accomplish it here, they will accomplish it everywhere. And then we will begin another revolution that will have to be bloody to go across the grain. You see, one thing about the Caucasian race we have to understand, they have only one interest, and it's themselves. It's themselves. The reason we spent 300 years incarcerated and denied humanity is because it served the white folks' lack of humanity. Now we can trace it historically and say, okay, yeah, they're the cousin that we kicked out, and therefore they've been mad. Get over it. And at the same time, we have to recognize the men and women that we talk about whose philosophical beliefs and movement have put us where we are today, like the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Amy Jacques Garvey, the Honorable Malcolm X, and many, many more have put us here because they saw that this day was coming. And so as we prepare to deal with this day, let us understand that if we fail to move appropriately, then all hell in the world will break loose. The generation, and I love this, the Generation Z has already determined enough.
Mhm. Yep. So y'all, you know, we could continue to have this discussion for a long time, but what I want to do at this point is ask Sam to just share with people how they can still come on the first, or if they have youth that they wish to get involved. Let people know that, Sam. And then also, I want people to understand that what the President General mentioned about 2025 is coming. Because as soon as Baba Mosi comes back from where he's at in his home, I'm going to be talking to him about Freedom Fridays, doing some sessions. We are working to do a session for everybody toward the end of August before the 31st. It is important. While everybody's talking about it, I mean, it's all in the media, everybody's talking about it, but we need to talk about it from a perspective of what we're going to do to block it and what we're going to do to rise as Babylon bricks start to fall so they don't fall on us. Sam, and by the way, hey Rue, if you got any other thing you want to add in there, but go ahead, Sam.
Uh, Great question, Brother Pascal. The event will be live. I'm not entirely sure if it'll be remote. As far as purchasing tickets, we do have a few scholarships. So please reach out in regards to that. You can also come in the day of. We're looking for young people, middle schoolers and high schoolers, and even recent graduates. So I would say between the ages of 13 and 19. Once again, it'll be a Bus Boys in Brookline, which is on Monroe Street. So you can just Google that, type Bus Boys and Poets Brookline. It'll give you the exact address on Thursday, August 1st, 2024.
So
It's
Sam, it will be recorded though, right?
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
Brother Heru is coming to record and others. So I just wanted, I think Brother Nardo, I don't think he's in the area, but
Okay.
but it is important for us to share this with others so that they can get a gist of the, because as you said, this is just a door opener. We're just opening the door. We
Well,
got,
question.
go ahead, brother.
Nah, so it's on Eventbrite, Marion Barry, Nanny Helen Burroughs Youth Symposium. You type that in, it'll come right up. Also, feel free to reach out to me. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever they call it now. Sam PK Collins, SAMPKCOLLINS. Always reachable through there. Once again, SAMPKCOLLINS. That's about it. Like I said, I'm available anytime. So reach
But
out for more
where we gonna be
information.
tomorrow? Where we gonna be tomorrow, Sam? You
Oh,
and me.
we're tomorrow, Baba. Yes, tomorrow morning and all day for that matter. We're gonna be at the Liberian Embassy on Colorado Avenue. So Liberian Independence Day was today, and they're celebrating it tomorrow at the embassy. And we're going to have books, shirts, a lot of information because Liberia very, very pivotal to what the UNIA has long sought to achieve. So it is our goal to raise awareness of that, to show people that history, and once again to really center Liberia and even Sierra Leone as a pivotal area when it comes to repatriation and it comes to African sovereignty. So really looking forward to that. And one more thing I do want to pitch out there. There's a pamphlet, a paradigm shift that myself as well as other members of the Liberian diaspora collaborated on. So if you are on the embassy grounds tomorrow and we fill you out as somebody who has some sense, then you will more than likely get a pamphlet.
Good. Mama Tendai, closing
I want to
remarks.
say I want one.
I got you.
You know, while I'm down here in Kakalaki, but that's all right. Sam,
I got you. Well, question.
okay. Sam, I'm sending you lots of love. Something about today, I'm feeling a lot of love for you. I'm sending a lot of love energy in your direction. I'm lifting you up to be able to go forth and continue to do the work that you're doing. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful that the ancestors have shown themselves through you and through Sister Atia and Sister Atlantis. I know that the event is going to be magnificent, but more important than the event is that the three of you all are working together.
That blacktricity, but
Sante
I'm,
Sana.
I'm so
No
glad you
question.
said that, Mama, because
No
that
question.
blacktricity that I see with them is just off the. And we talking about some serious institutional builders
Yeah.
that have come together, and I love it. I love it. You know.
And so I'm feeling that. I'm sending it to you. And like I said, the most important thing is that the three of you all now, and I can say the four of you, because you also got Amma in,
Amma type.
that you all are able to work together as a group to help advise us in some of the things that we need to be able to do, and help us to know how we can support you going forward in those things that need to be done as well. So appreciate you and sending you much love. And you know, I'm still working for you over here trying to get a few more scholarships. So I got 2 more today to send your way for
Dr.
students.
Chenzara had mentioned she was.
She did.
Okay.
I talked to her last night and she went in and she sent me the thing to show that she had paid for 2, and I forwarded it to Sam.
Okay. All right.
Coach
Singor.
One,
Yes.
question.
Um,
That we be consciously remembering that we must increase the number of our women in our organizations as activists.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed.
It's key that they are able to build their own organizations within the organizations.
Mm-hmm.
That they're able to have their own autonomy and able to contribute to the decision making. I mean, when I listen and I hear, sometimes I hear male more than I hear, you know, the feminine voice. I hear the feminine voice, with the feminine voice coming through in the activities and what's being done.
Understood. And maybe, you know, because you're a 369 member, so I understand clearly where you're coming from. And I know how we roll. But
You.
yeah, I wish you were gonna be in Chicago with us, because you would see just what you just said. And you know, normally they do sister circles, but more than that, we can't make no moves. Me and PG don't move nowhere without consultation of the queens, man. I'm telling you. But anyway, you're right. You're right. What you said was on point. Haru, you said you wanted.
Yes, one of the things I like to say, when I was taking courses in communication system engineering, we had to take a course in information theory and coding. And basic information theory is the mathematical mapping of subject, noun, verbs, and information that's being transmitted. And that ties back to the history, the importance to study the history, because the history is a book of algorithms of people activity among different areas of people activity. So when the young people are studying the history, it creates like an energy algorithm to the past to build the future. And also when a group of people had evolved on the same information, it creates a portal to those ancestors. The information conjugate you have to remember is that in the African concepts, these are the ancestor memories are in the bones and in the blood. So you create you using the concept of electricity, you creating this energy pathway for information to flow through, as well as to direct the behaviors of those studying the history to actually propagate the algorithms of what was done before in the here and now.
Okay.
I have Senghor.
Linguistic code as
I'm
well
not,
in
clo- I'm not,
sound.
not closing out yet. I just want to respond. to something
I
that
know, but
Julius-
I just have one request.
Okay, go ahead.
Sam, I want a brochure as well. Make sure
Bob, I
you
got you.
So-
I send it to me by way of Senghor. You can bring it to Chicago, or you can mail it, email it. I don't care,
So,
but I
so-
want one.
So Julius, Sunday, we want him 369 is going to have to send you the link. We're honoring Mama T, who is a sister who was in 369. And you may already know this because you're in 369, but we want to make sure that you on that Zoom Sunday. That's going to be powerful. Dr. Chinzara is hosting that Zoom, and you're going to get to see some powerful African sisters there.
It's African Women's Day celebration.
Yeah, I know. Just you know, Baba Tendai. Julius knows. He knows he's in 369.
I know, but I'm messing with him because of what he was saying, because he already knows.
Yeah,
It's
he knew.
almost all sisters there. You are
He
brothers.
know, but you see,
Getting your voice heard.
but you see, him and
You had to say it. You had
but
to
him and
say
the
it.
him and the PG are the only ones that ain't in 330 that's on here right now. PG's in Philly and Julius is in 369. You know, but it's okay. You know, so I'm just kind of teasing. But for the public, so y'all understand, African women rule. Hello? Public.
Saying, you know, the linguistic code
You said nothing wrong.
is built in the linguistics of all languages.
Okay.
Which is why language was the first call that Diop made for the federated state. That's the cultural change you have to make, is change the language.
I hear you, bro. So with that said, y'all, you know, so Baba Mosi don't send me a text from Guyana saying you went too long. They want to keep it strong and keep the Freedom Fridays to an hour and a half at the most. And we've gone over by 20 minutes, but that's great. It's been a great evening. I know we didn't have any special guests, but we had a whole room full of presenters. And it's very important for us to recognize Black August, African Heritage Month. We're not letting that go, y'all, because African Heritage Month is an institution in itself. Mosiah Month. Also, an announcement. Tuesday, and an invitation. Tuesday, coming up from 7 to 9, we're going to be on WOL with the same topic. Me and Sam, I would love for Tendai to be with us, and Mama Chinzara, I'm going to try to invite them, and PG, you know, I'd love for y'all to join in, but we're going to be at 2 hours talking about Black August, the UNIA-ACL RC2020, the events coming up. Some of the same thing we talked about tonight, we're going to be talking to the public through WOL around the world.
Tuesday, this coming Tuesday?
It's coming Tuesday from 7 to 9.
7 to 9
a.m.
Well, I knew that part.
So the program is designed to promote the work that we're doing in August, to also recognize Black August and Mosiah Month, because all of that work is connected. And Mama Tendai, I would love to have you on because, you know, I heard what you were saying all tonight, but it's important because when they hear you on WL in the DMV, because, you know, some people think you're still in the DMV, even though you're down in the Carolinas. So it would be great if you can make it. And you don't have to be on the whole 2 hours, by the way. And PG, you know how Carl rolls, and Sam. And so he called me up today. Well, I talked to him the other day, but he confirmed that with me, and he asked for the topic. So I told him I sent him a flyer for this. I said, couldn't be no better topic than that, because we can talk about quite a few things when we start talking about August. So that's what it's going to be, and we want to have some events. So with that said, brothers and sisters, I want you to hold up your right fist. One God.
One God.
One aim.
One aim.
One aim.
One destiny.
One destiny.
One destiny.
One
Africa.
One Africa.
All the time. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Son, Sante Sana.
RGB.